Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the One Nation of Gamers Hearthstone PAX East Major. My name is TJ. I am joined by That's Admiral once again. We're about 8 hours in to day number 2, and we still have, I believe, 2 matches left before the end of the day. And one of those matches is going to be coming up next. It's Trump versus IV. Trump has been dominating so far in the matches that we've seen from him at the PAX East Major. What have been your thoughts so far, and of course on Trump's performance here, Admirable?
Really like the way that Trump has been playing his matches so far. Been very patient, very value-driven, very deliberate in his approach. Seen very, very tight play from him thus far in the tournament. And something I was looking up during the break is if Trump wins and makes it in the top 16, among the players we have qualified so far, there would be over $400,000 in total prize won among those players, and 16 tournament wins among them as well. And that is something astonishing to think about. Over 128 players in this event with a single elimination bracket. To have that much be in the round of 16 that is insane performances from those guys.
Yeah, I'd say so. And of course, among the top 16 at the moment that contributes to that, Firebat, Amnesiac, Nostum, Super JJ, Orange, Calento now after that last match that we saw. So lots of big names still left in it, which is pretty crazy for an open. But we still have a lot of unknown players. And, this has sort of been what the One Nation of Gamers 2016 circuit, and even going back to the summer circuit last year, it's about giving those unknown players a chance to sort of make a name for themselves. I know there's been quite a few players who have sort of made names for themselves in One Nation of Gamers. I think one of those players being Nostum, who a lot of people didn't know much about him before the American Championship this year. And a lot of his sort of fame before that came from the One Nation of Gamers circuit last year. And it sort of gave him that kickstart that he needed to pursue his competitive Hearthstone career. So we do have a lot more opens left throughout the year. We have 6 more opens left throughout the course of 2016. So the next one is going to be on April 30th, just a week from today. If you are a U.S. resident and you want to sign up for that open, head over to geico.onog.gg. Right at the top right of the screen, there's the sign up button. Also, there's a banner below the stream that you can also click that'll lead you directly to that page. We still have 3 more feature tournaments as well, which the opens lead into those feature tournaments. And then, of course, we have the grand finals, which will take place at PAX Prime at the end of August, which has a $25,000 prize pool. And the winner of this major gets a guaranteed spot at that grand finals. So lots on the line for the circuit, lots on the line for the major, which we still have to complete today. And we should be jumping into this match. So let's start talking about this one. Warlock for Trump and Druid for Ivy.
Yeah, I've been seeing Trump's Zoo Warlock actually do some good work in this match so far. He does have a copy of Bran and Gormok in his builds, as well as a couple of Flame Imps. Not going towards those Argent Squires that we've seen people tending to favor at points to help fight off the aggro shamans that we've been seeing. IV, don't know much about this player so far, but to make it this far, had to be performing pretty darn well with his decks. He's going to be rolling with Druid here. Has Wild Growth and Shade next Shaman. His opening hand going to be coining out that Wild Growth, rolling into Shade. Innervate does give him more options for how he wants to play this, though. Trump's going to be good with his hand, Void Walker, Dark Peddler, Beast Sergeant, and Haunted Creeper in this one. But I think he's got his work cut out for him.
Yeah, that's a sick hand. Whoa! Facade.
That's a plot twist.
Yeah, so far over the course of the last 2 days, we have seen one just straight up ramp Druid. But this could be an indication with the Kel'Thuzad that it is just a ramp Druid. Did we see any combo pieces in the opening mulligan?
Didn't see a Force Nature or Savage Roar. I mean, he kept most of his hand. He kept his entire hand, I think.
Yeah.
From what it looked like. Dr. Boom joins the party as well. He's going to hang on to Shade for now. Trump, pretty good opener for him. It's actually looking like this Reliquary Seeker might be able to get active on a board state like this. Build towards that point. Looking like potential to get Gormok value here as well. That might be a big shutdown to that possibility, though.
Yeah. It's not clean, but you can go for a Keeper this turn on the 2/2 and just evaluate next turn.
Yeah, this is a tough board state. King Boss always messes up my Druid math quite a bit. Just the fact they're getting extra 1/1s. Now, the swipe is important here, I think, because it allows him to more so ignore the King Boss and try to clean up afterwards with a swipe. this matchup often comes like this kind of game of chicken where the Druid player doesn't want to swipe until they've seen Implosion. The Zoo player doesn't want Implosion until they've seen Swipe. So if you can force one of those out of the other player, you usually end up in a good position. But with Trump having Imp Gang Boss on the board, he's a little bit more free to go ahead and use Implosion because the Imp Gang Boss is going to keep generating in a situation like that. So the Implosion for 2, would have preferred it for 4 or even for 3, I think, to use the Voidwalker to clean it up in the meantime. But Ivy draws Living Roots here, and this gives him an opportunity for a full clear. So if he goes ahead and Living Roots this, he can swipe on the Voidwalker, clear everything up, have a 5/5 stealth on board, and roll into Coin Dr. Boom on turn 6. And that is a monstrous play right now.
Yeah, I'd say so. And he could even push in with the shade damage. I don't even know if he keep it stealth. There's not really anything that's going to threaten this besides an Ironbeak Owl. Which at that point you got to be pretty happy that your opponent's using a 2 mana in order to do that, considering you're playing a Dr. Boom next turn.
Yeah. This is bad news for Trump. The Ruben Egg and maybe Haunted Creeper instead. I mean, what's looking like happened is kind of that game of chicken took place. Trump got a poor Implosion on this, and Swipe cleaned up the board. And so now he's kind of relegated to this play, and Coin Dr. Boom is going to be this is unbelievably strong at this point. I mean, a 6/5, a 7/7, and 2 Boombots versus an Arubian Egg. You take your pick of who you think is favorite, DJ.
I don't know. It's a tough call. He does have Saboteur next turn as well, which if none of the board is removed, is just going to end the game. That's 13, 14, 15 plus 10. That's 25. 26 damage. Sorry, since the Shade Next Rammus will get buffed to a 7. So, plus a hero power, 27. Insult to injury. He can clear off a Boombot. Don't think it's even possible to get even perfect juggles enough to kill off the Shade.
He could hit it twice and then hit it a third time from the Nerubian spawning. That's a pretty tough odds to pull. Well, there goes that side of things.
Ivy's just nodding his head like, yep.
Yeah, that swipe draw, I think, pretty much destroyed the game for Trump. Once the swipe was drawn, it didn't really look like there was any way he could keep the board position recovered. Had the swipe not been there, Trump likely would have been able to get a lot of 1/1s on board and then potentially get Reliquary Seeker value, but in this position it was just too much. And Savage Roar, 22 points of damage here. Ivy takes a very quick game number 1.
Sometimes I have nightmares about this exact draw from Druids.
Sometimes.
Yeah, so I was just going to push in here, and actually has 20, a little bit extra here with the Living Roots.
Wasn't counting the hero power. It's been a long day of casting here so far. Been here since 7:30 a.m. Pacific time.
Oh, baby.
5, 6, 7, 8. Closing in on 8 hours of casting straight for TJ and I. Good looking game for Ivy. If he can keep getting those kinds of draws, he definitely will find himself an advantage. He's got Paladin and Warlock left to work with. Rogue was banned out by Trump, and Ivy went ahead and banned Trump's Paladin in this matchup. I wonder if that says anything about his builds.
Well, Trump was running a mid-range Paladin, which tends to do well against a lot of the stuff. His Rogue does do well against mid-range Paladin, which is a little interesting. Maybe he expected the Rogue ban and judged it based off that, but I don't think it tells us too much. Maybe mid-range Paladin does tend to do well against Zoo Warlock sometimes. Ooh. But what the heck is that? Okay, Warlock?
It's been a while since I've seen that card make it into the fray. I actually saw Surrender, who is a Korean Hearthstone professional, running a copy of Arc Thief for FOM very early on when Reno Jackson decks were first kind of getting introduced. He tested out quite a few big threats in that top end. And since then, I really haven't seen him run much Arc Thief for FOM.
Yep.
But Ivy, bringing a twist to this one, he also has Faceless Manipulator alongside that. I mean, is there a chance that he has Arc Thief and combo in this build?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen players in the past run both Fugan and Stalag and combo. You are forced to take out some tech cards or some of your mid-range minions. But I mean, it's Reno Warlock. Every card in the deck besides Reno Jackson is a flex card. Like every card's a tech card. So there's so much room to sub things out and put things in, and really, if you look at it, there's a lot of cards that you can afford to take out to put in a Faceless Manipulator, a Charger, and a Power Overwhelming.
Yeah. So Fiery War Axe going to make quick work of this front half of Shredder. That's going to be Haunted Creeper. Ooh, that looks really good for Trump right now. That has turned into a pure liability at this point because that Acolyte of Pain. I wonder if Silence might have been better last turn. Acolyte of Pain is such a scary minion when you're playing against Patron too, because one of the ways that this deck operates so effectively is if it just gets lots of card draws, it can keep a lot of pressure on you. Like I know with the Kor'kron Elite versions of Patron, something that you very often get into is a situation where going into a Reno Jackson turn, you drop Frothing Berserker, so that if they drop Reno Jackson, you can flood out your Whirlwinds at that point and just one-shot them with the Frothing Berserker afterwards.
Yeah.
Now that's a little bit easier said than done. I mean, there's a lot of prerequisite that's required for that.
Why?
Why what?
He didn't Battle Rage.
It could be because he doesn't want to get cards burned. If he Battle Rage for 3 here, he goes up to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cards in hand, and then just attack for the 10th card. At this point, with the card draw, I think you can just be patient with it. Drawing too many cards in this matchup is at times a liability because you need time to beat them as well. And with the Acolyte and the ping going, I just don't feel like he thinks it's necessary to be going that quick. So here, he continues to take advantage of this too. I mean, the Acolyte's just naturally drawing cards on its own.
Yeah, I guess Battle Rage is just sort of not even needed at this point. So doesn't want to overdraw. I guess you're right in that situation. And now that he's got cards to spare from his hand, he can afford to draw a little bit more. I guess there are some key cards in this matchup, Grom Hellscream being one of them that you really cannot afford to have discarded. You need to apply pressure. This matchup is still pretty rough, though. You just sort of have to sometimes throw stuff out there, hope that the Reno Warlock hasn't drawn into their AoE yet, hope your stuff sticks enough for you to be able to put on enough pressure to close out the game.
Yeah, just going to life step here and play a big Twilight Drake. And Trump's card economy is looking good right now, and Kor'kron Elite joins the party. So this is looking like the kind of draw where Grim Patron actually is pretty massively favored over Reno Jackson. Gets to use Acolyte, get an armor, draw a card, go ahead and execute off this 4/10 Drake, and giddy up. The kind of the card that's missing from this is Frothing Berserker. I think if Trump picks up that card, he is good to go.
Giddy on up. Yeah, it seems like a great execute target. And he also has a 1/1 Acolyte, which is one of the best tools to pop that Acolyte. He also has a ping, so that's an option too. It just limits the amount of cards that he can play after the execute. There's second Acolyte. That's not what he wants to see now, but he can still throw out that Kor'kron Elite, start pushing that damage, start making that damage stick, and he's rolling into a Dr. Boom turn.
Yeah, I think there is some consideration for Fiery War Axe here, but I think that he'd like to get the Despite set up ideally. Or even just roll straight into Dr. Boom and save his coin for a better turn. I mean, having that access to extra mana, setting into Fiery War Axe is not really that big of a deal, because if you have to use the Despite in the following turn, you're just going to override it, which means you wasted your coin and you wasted Fiery War Axe. So just keep his options open. I think it's definitely the best spot to be right now. I mean, Trump is definitely ahead in this one. He has kept up, if not ahead, in card draws of Ivy at this point. Has board pressure and has responses to everything.
Yeah, Frecker Z. Yeah, it does still seem like this matchup's going to be tough, though. As long as Ivy is relatively patient with his AoE, he still does have Reno. It's just a matter of not taking too many risks here. He's staring at 5 damage. He's going into a possible turn 8. Whoa!
Yeah, honestly, I think that's the right play at this point. I mean, he's just been so far behind. He needs some development to stick to the board. And if he doesn't play Reno Jackson this turn, it means he's almost certainly committed to it the turn after. And so rather than having to commit his turn 8 with 5 mana having to be Reno Jackson, just play it right now. Suffer a bit more damage. Don't get as much value from it, but maybe have a better chance to actually stick something to the board and turn this game around.
Yeah. I suppose so. Also, if he didn't play Reno Jackson that turn, decided to play a Dr. Boom, he would have died to just coin Grom Interrage. Which at this stage, Trump drawing that many cards, I mean, it's not the most unlikely thing in the world for that to happen. We've seen many a player die over the course of this weekend to that exact thing happening. And now he sets himself up for a lot more options going into the next turn. And Trump's got a tough turn. This is a balance of, how much stuff do I commit to a board? And I guess the answer is not very much for Trump, as he's just going to develop a Death Spite and probably not any minions behind this. Just preserve his Courtyard Elite, try and get as much damage out of that as possible, and see from there. Roll into the next turn.
Yeah, a little bit of a weak turn from Trump. I mean, he didn't really make much headway. And I think that's exactly what Ivy was looking for, was for Trump to really not have a big turn on this one. So now his options are a lot more open at this point.
How afraid is he of the Death Spite? Not that afraid.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so at all either. He's got plenty of AoE to handle the board state getting out of control, and Grim Patrons obviously are not looking too fantastic in this matchup if you don't have a ton of pressure rolling with good follow-ups.
No, you have to be really patient with it, and a lot of times if you can get it rolling like right on turn 5 or turn 6, that's the time to go for it before the Warlock has a chance to draw into the AoE. But if you do have to play it this late in the game, you just want to make sure you don't use too many resources to try and propagate more.
It was the word of the day yesterday. Trump taking a lot of damage today. You were right on that Arcane Golem too. It is running a combo with that. It's a lot of damage to take.
How overwhelming. And Trump does not have armor up. Keep that in mind. He gave it up for the ping. So this damage that's being dealt is going to stick. He's already also used one Armor Smith. So now he's got to be pretty careful. All of a sudden, a power overwhelming draw off the top is enough damage to end the game.
Yeah, Abusive Sergeant would do it too.
Yeah, Abusive Sergeant would do it too. Abusive Sergeant would be exactly 12 damage.
Yeah, 3 cards for Trump. And Ivy, I mean, even if Ivy doesn't have the damage next turn, just being able to Hellfire, set stuff on board, and then roll into Trump being at an even lower life total, it's still totally fine.
Hellfire and Loatheb here is fantastic. I mean, that means Trump's not going to be able to answer a Loatheb. He's going to be at 9 health with no more armor up available, no Armor Smith in his hand. And even though Arcane Golem Faceless Manipulator isn't that much burst for 8 mana, 8 damage still is probably going to be enough to get the job done.
He's just going to take his time. I mean, he's trying to think of a reason I think that Hellfire or Loatheb is not the play, but I don't know if he's ever going to find that. I mean, Hellfire looks fantastic right here, and Loatheb looks fantastic right here. Even without Arcane Golem and Faceless Manipulator's hand, this individually is probably his best turn.
Yeah. Well, Trump does have some ways to stop it here. He's got Deathbite, Dread Corsair, Unstable Ghoul. He's got some taunts to block some of the damage, but Ivy has Owl. Is it going to be enough to push through? Because Arcane Golem, Faceless Manipulator, he'll be able to push through 9, even if 2 taunts are played. Whoa!
Ouch, that one hurts.
And
yeah, I think that's going to end it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Trump is just hoping there's no damage in Ivy's hand. And oftentimes there isn't, but it just happens to be the threat spread right now. Ivy going to take game number 2 here. Not a fancy combo. Just enough.
Yeah.
Ironbeak Owl and Arcane Golem, my Valentine.
Whoa, style points from Ivy.
Boom.
Yeah, you can't miss up an opportunity to get a little bit of BM against the old Trump there. But Ivy in a great spot now. 3 opportunities he's going to have to win with his last deck, which is a Paladin deck. Not sure what it is just yet. We can't even pinpoint. A month ago, I would have said, oh, it's Secret Paladin 100%. But so far this tournament, we've seen 10 Murloc Paladins, maybe 2 Secret Paladins, and 2 mid-range Paladins.
Yeah, it's been very heavily weighted on the Murloc side. I'm going with Murloc. I'm just going with the percentages here.
Sure, yeah. I'm just not even going to try to pinpoint it. We haven't seen a Flood Paladin yet. Flood Paladin was popular during the Winter Championships for EU. There was a couple players that brought that. That was actually more popular than Secret Paladin for the European Championships. And I've seen a lot of Flood Paladin on ladder lately. But other than that, today's been all about Murloc Paladin. But those are some secrets.
Right when I say it too. Goodness gracious. I just can't get a break. Never lucky.
Literally never lucky. All right, so Ivy's got a pretty decent hand here. Literally.
Literally never lucky.
All right. Can Ivy do it? Can he pull together the upset of Trump in this matchup? Trump's been sort of maybe a little bit out of the constructed game for a while. He hasn't been playing nearly as much constructed as he was sort of in the later parts of 2015 when he made his top 8 finish at the America's Championship. But still, when you play Hearthstone all day, you pick up on things.
Yeah, just going to be Armor Smith. Wants to try to check the Noble Sacrifice of that and then lead with Fiery War Axe afterwards. Ivy just a Haunted Creeper. So Trump going to get some fantastic news this turn, I imagine. I suppose there's a chance he goes with Frothing Berserker here instead, but that would have been before the play. So sees its Noble Sacrifice. A pretty easy Fiery War Axe for him, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
And Ivy's hand looking pretty dead on turn 3. I mean, unless he picks up something, it's going to be Hero Power Go.
Yeah, he wants to pick up Monster for Battle. Even Shielded Minibot would be a good play. I guess Avenge works. Allows him to fit in the Hero Power, have 2 minions on board for the Avenge to go through. He does have really solid plays going into his next couple turns with the option of Keeper Voldemort and Pilot Shredder next turn.
I don't like that attack at all. That sets up the Fiery War Axe to be able to take out whichever threat the Avenge falls on.
I mean, I guess that attack would have happened anyway.
Right, but if Trump, he has the 1/2 Haunted Creeper, Trump decides to attack the 1/1 instead, that means the Avenge falls on the Haunted Creeper and it becomes a 4/4 at that point. So it's not challenged by the Fiery War Axe. This sets up the Avenge to be procced by.
It's very true.
To be run over by the Fiery War Axe. This is a slip up here from Ivy, I think.
Maybe he's trying to bait out. Does that indicate that it might be a different secret? Don't think it does.
I don't think it changes Trump's play much at all either. I mean, even if he knew what secret it was, I mean, he's probably just likely making the same decision. If it was a different secret, he's probably making the same decision. He's going to go ahead and go with Execute instead. Wants to keep the tempo from Fiery War Axe. A little bit surprised by that.
We're rolling into turn 4. Pilot Shredder could be on his mind.
Yeah, but it's going to be Keeper of Voldemort and trade into this Frothing Berserker. If Trump is going to use the Execute there, I think I would have liked to see the Fiery War Axe, but we're going to have to fight it from this position. 3/4 for Ivy, Fiery War Axe for Trump, and...
Well, hello.
Picked up. Yeah, override the Fiery War Axe. That feels bad. Yep, so a little bit of value regained here for Ivy. The next turn is looking pretty tough into this, though. Ooh, Coghammer makes it a lot better.
Yeah, Knife Juggler plus Coghammer fits up his curve. I think his play other than that would have been Piloted Shredder, which still lines up pretty nicely against Deathbite, but this makes it tough. He also gets to push more damage.
Oh, Interrage is a nice one. I mean, it's not like super good, but anything to help handle a Knife Juggler, I think is pretty welcome here. Now, the decision here for Trump is, does he even need to use the Deathbite on this turn? Like, if he just waits, maybe he can find a better spot, but I'm thinking you're going to need to go Acolyte and use this Deathbite here.
Yeah. And depending on what he picks up, he ooh.
He's going to go ahead and Enrage first, wants to take into his deck, maybe searching for Battle Rage. Now, he's just going to pass instead. So, interesting play from Trump here. He's looking for a little bit more value from this turn. Tyrion gets picked up for Ivy. And this might be the point where it gets really tough for Trump to come back in this one. I mean, Ivy's just going to continue to add pressure to this board and keep swinging away. And Trump has just drawn all his utility and all of his weapons.
Yeah, this is going to start to get pretty dicey here. Because even if Trump picks up a Patron next turn, he's not going to be able to go off on the Patrons because he just won't have enough mana utilization to be able to play the Inner Rage, and he's picking up just cards that aren't that good. Yeah, Unstable Ghoul is going to block some damage, but Ivy's got plays. Has no shortage of strong minions to play over the next couple turns.
Yeah, it's became pretty dire straits at this point. I mean, this might be Unstable Pass or something, but it's just the damage is going to keep piling on afterwards.
Looks like he's going to go with Execute on the Loatheb.
That feels bad.
Yep. Going to take 3 more damage from the Knife Juggler next turn, plus whatever juggles he gets from the minions.
Oh,
and a Ragnaros.
Nelly.
Oh, man. The quality of draws is insane.
I don't know if Trump can get back into this game. I mean, this is brutal. This Knife Juggler has done so much work because of that Cog Hammer. And Trump just doesn't have any real plays. He has nothing to make progress on this.
Yeah. All of his plays have just been to sort of like stop the bleeding for a couple turns. And it's not enough when you're having to play reactive every single turn. He had a small window where if Lotheb wasn't played and he drew into exactly Patron, he could have made a board full of Patrons and maybe had a chance to come back. But, I mean, this is sort of the inconsistency of Patron Warrior sort of shining through. He had all 4 of his weapons in his first 8 cards.
Yeah, I mean, that's always rough to deal with. I mean, you do want some weapons to operate with, but typically drawing 4 of them is just a little bit too much, especially if you're not the player driving the action on this one. Finley's going to be the lead here. I don't know what he's looking for, but these aren't it.
Yeah, what is he looking for? Maybe ping? But he's like dead on board, almost.
This is going to be really rough. Fiery War Axe coming down. Inner Rage on the Knife Juggler. Finally it falls.
Okay.
3-2 just from that guy. Hero power to gain an extra armor here. And just drop the Unstable Ghoul and hope. This hope is not long for this world, though, because there's no shortage of the biggest minions in Ivy's deck that he can play.
He can go for a 50-50 for the win here with the Cog Hammer attack face. You put your opponent at 8. But it looks like he's just going to go for the consistent damage, put him at 3 instead, and he'll have no way to deal with a rag that's on the board. He knows that both executes are gone, and there's the Patron, but it looks like it's going to be too little too late. Trump can try and throw it out there, but, I mean, what does that accomplish? It keeps you alive, but if you don't die, then your Patron gets killed.
Yeah, I mean,
you still have nothing.
There's no recovery from this point. Both his executes are gone. No big game hunter available for this. Just 2 level life total to work on. And, you know, it all comes back, I think, to that Fiery War Axe turn where Trump used execute instead of using Fiery War Axe. Had he used that Fiery War Axe to take care of the threat instead of executing it, he would have taken a little bit more damage early on, but I think would have had a cleaner couple turns afterwards. And that play has just come back to cost him quite a bit. Going to continue going here, you know, just hoping that anything happens, but there isn't anything that can happen here. Just Ivy can drop Tyrion, just drop the Avenge, say go, and 50% of the time he wins immediately, and then 50% of the time he basically wins immediately. Just, this is the position that's been created.
Oh, well, it looks like he wins immediately.
Yeah. So, no action from Trump here. That's going to do it. Ivy takes a 3-0 victory and upsets Trump.
Wow.
Very decisive wins from him as well. Wow, just been the last couple of matches we have seen, you know, later on in yesterday and early today, a lot of 5-game sets took place. But the last few matches have just been dominant performances, like 3-0 after 3-0.
Yeah.
That's coming in here, and just another player moving on top 16. Honestly, was a big fan of the way Ivy played this series. And I think, again, this last game, I think Trump slipped up quite a bit with the weapon usage and the execute there, and it cost him potentially quite a bit.
Third player to be upset today. That's Strife Crow falling, Amaz falling, and now Trump falling to some of these open players. So really excited to see these guys hopefully starting to make names for themselves. I feel like a lot of these players have played exceptionally well today, and so looking forward to seeing more from them. But Trump, unfortunately, that means he's been eliminated from the tournament, and Ivy moves on to that top 16. We do have one more match remaining left for day 2. of the Hearthstone Major at PAX East. This is going to be Astrogation of New Order Esports. He's going to be taking on Frazier Powers. So it's going to be the last one coming up. That'll solidify our top 16 once that match is finished. So before we jump into that match, we're going to have to go to a quick break, though. We do want to give a big shout out to, of course, the sponsors, GEICO Gaming, Video Game Voters Network, and, of course, CyberPower PC, DX Razer, and Asus Republic of Gamers for helping us out with the hardware for the event. Wouldn't be able to do it without those guys. So we're going to go to a quick break before we jump into the final match of the day between Astrogation and Frazier Powers. Don't go anywhere, guys. The conclusion to day number 2 of the Hearthstone Major presented by One Nation of Gamers continues right after this.